accordingly if we don't have the attribute at all. So we have some flexibility here and not necessarily having to worry about which one just by checking all the possible combinations we would want. So, and that's basically going to build one of these DAO models, or it's just a model, not a DAO model, but just the model. And we're going to pass that back when we do our lookups. Okay, so we'll see that now when we actually go look at our test class. All right, let's close this. So here's our test class. We're going to basically, it's a batch thing. And you see, all we have to do to switch from one server to another is basically just uncomment this one and comment this one, and we can switch from Microsoft to Apache with very little work, and we're just having two different XML files. Okay. Now, one thing about the original one is that the XML file was buried down in the class path this way. If you can see when you code these, you're going to have to code a URL to get to your server. So it's probably not the best idea to do this. Now, of course, these are meant as examples. They're probably not intended for you to be running them that way in production. You would have to think a little bit about it, because if you built this in test and set this up for test and then copy and try to deploy it to production, there would be a problem, and you'd have to unwind something to go get this. So what you might want to do is in your batch shell script or your bat script, you would set your class path to dot and just put this right at the base of your project. Another way is to just go right at the file system, which is what Spring provides another means of doing that, which is what we're doing here. And of course we have those files right at the base of our project. Okay, so we can get them that way too. Another way I demonstrate here, where I have commented out, where you might have a completely different way of getting properties. So for example, with Oracle Identity Manager provisioning, it has the concept of an IT resource, which is basically a database backed property. So we would call that API to get the properties and then iterate through them here and populate them manually and build our context on the fly without using any of the Spring configuration files at all. So it's just three different ways you can load the properties up and configure, the LDAP for the LDAP server you're running against. Okay. So here we have. So here we're going to run our get contact names, and here we're using the default, which was the get them by UID, I believe. So we're going to get a list of all the contacts. For each contact, we're going to get the UID and get the details, which is going to return one of those models that we've set up, our DTO here. So, and of course I already showed you if it returns null, the user's not found, and we're going to print that message out. Otherwise, we're going to, well, in either case, we're going to print the contact. We could probably just do this to make it a little clearer. So, okay, so we'll print user not found, or we'll print the contact. If we run into an error, we're going to get an exception and throw out the message. Then what we're going to do is try and create a new contact here. So we're going to set up a new model, populate it with some contrived data. We're going to set up a default group, which we have in our one of our properties as a default group. If I can find it right there. So we have two different groups, one for each of these servers. It's seamen there, and over here it's readers. So we'll see why in a minute. So if we get back to our sample runner, so then we're going to create a user. Once we create the user and add the user's groups, then we're going to try and read the user back and print them out. Hopefully we'll find it after we add it. Then we're going to update the user by changing the description and then run the search again, see if we got it back with the new description. Once we're done, we're going to try and disable the user, then we're going to enable the user, then we're going to clean up and remove all the user's groups, and then finally delete the user. And that's pretty much what our demo is going to do when we run it. So right now we're pointing to our Microsoft server. So let's go ahead and run it, and well, let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. Okay, so you see here we printed out all the users that we could find in the system. Here we have our AD admin, and we have M Forrester, and we have J developer, and then we tried to create a new user, which is what we did here, and we added it to the readers roles. Okay, so here's the user we added, and then we finally printed the user out. Here's the user, adding the user person. We added the user, then we added the group, and now we update, and here we're showing the new user from the log. Here we're updating the user, and then we're going to show the updated user here where we went and reread it, and sure enough we have a description change here, so we can see that. Okay, then we're going to remove the user deleted, success. So if we actually went and looked in our Microsoft Active Directory, we're probably timed out. Let's disconnect and reconnect. We're using JExplorer to look at it. So here's our Microsoft Atom. Here's our users, and there's no user there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do get a little bit more detail here. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and run it through the update until it updates the user, and then here what we'll do is we'll short circuit it so it doesn't finish. Okay, so we listed out the users, we created the user again. Now let's go to our users and do a refresh, and here is the user we just added. Okay, we can look at the table editor. We see we have his changed description. We see that he was added to the reader's roles. Okay, now we give him a default password of pass. So theoretically, once he's in the reader's roles, we should be able to log in as this user. So we'll go here, the Atom user. Here's the DN of the user we just added, Raul. Okay, so let's see if we can give it password of pass and log in. And there we go. We can log in with the user, and we can read the directory server. Okay, so we'll log out and log back in as our administrator. Okay, now what we want to do here is pull up the user. Want to manually delete the user. Okay, now we want to go back, and what we're going to do here is we're going to move our short circuit to the point where it disables the user. Okay, so we already know we can log in as the user, so we'll run it again. Okay, now we should have disabled. Okay, so let's just make sure the user's there. Okay, and there he is, and we have our disabled is true. Well, let's prove that by trying to log in as the user, and sure enough we can't. So that proves that point. And so what we'll do again is log in as our administrator. Okay, once again we'll delete the user manually, and this time we'll move the short circuit code down to where we actually enable the user after we disable, and we'll run again. Okay, now if we go and look here, we should see we have the new user. We show his disabled value is false, so now we should be able to log in, and we can. So there we go. So we've proven that our enable disable works, our deletes are working, our adds are working, our updates are working, and that's all working fine on Microsoft. So let's go ahead and clear out this user again. Okay. Let's see who I logged in as. Yep, can't do it as the regular user. Alright, so we'll get back in as the admin again, look at the users, and now we should be able to delete our user. There we go. Okay. So, let's now we should be all we should have to do here is let's take out our short circuiting code. There we go. Well, actually let's leave it, because then we can see if the user gets added. So let's just switch it now from Microsoft, and we'll switch him over to Apache. Okay, and then we'll rerun. Okay, so no errors. We have a few extra users on our Apache server, of course. So I have a video on YouTube about setting up Apache DS with all these users, and that's what this is. So you can see we have the same thing. We created the user, we printed him out, we added him to a group, and then we made a change and we printed it out again. So now let's use JExplorer. Let's log out of here, and then let's switch over to our Apache DS server, and let's see if Raul is here, and there he is. Okay, so now like I said, there's no disable enable here. It's just empty code, so nothing's going to happen. So we see that we changed the user. We have his other description there, and when we printed him out before, it had the description we originally sent, which was this here. Okay, so now what we're going to do is remove our short circuit. Save the code. We'll go back here and we'll delete manually. Okay, now we'll run the full test again. Okay, and now we should see that the user is not in our system at all because our full test ran and he was indeed deleted. So this is just a little example of taking something that was a demonstration of showing you how to do use some cool technology like Spring with LDAP, which I've never tried before, and then take it one step further and try to make it run against a couple of different LDAPs. You know, there's still a few more. There's OID, there's Sun1, and then of course there's the old-fashioned Active Directory, which rumor has it you can actually make Atom think it's the old-fashioned one by loading up a Win2K schema. I haven't tried that yet. But anyway, you can see how you could do it easily by just having a base class and putting all the common methods in it, and then and then extending those base classes and implementing a interface that has all the things you would need to do if you were doing provisioning. So let's see, we're 23 minutes in. No, YouTube's not going to like that. Well, hope you enjoyed it, folks. See ya.